Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy evening to join me. I really do appreciate it. And as the title would indicate, we are in fact talking about coffee. More specifically, I want to give a special shout out to the vendor over at Coachella. And while I don't want to mention any names, I do want to friendly remind everyone that there is such a thing as public domain. And I would be more than aware of this, right? Seeing as though there are a handful of trolls out there somewhere in the wilderness of the World Wide Web intent on making my life a living hell. And so I'm just saying that anytime you kind of put yourself out there in public, that's kind of one of those things. And so, specifically, I will tell you guys that I really do appreciate you joining me. And tonight, I'm totally going just kind of like Rambo impromptu. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about. I wanted to talk about coffee because I'm drinking some coffee, and typically with impromptu, you kind of just see what's around and start talking about it, and hopefully it works out. Hopefully you can provide some structure and so forth and have the speech captivating enough for you all to just stay tuned. And so again, I just really appreciate it. You feel me? I'm what I call a Coachella veteran. I've been to Coachella more times than I can count. I love Coachella. I should be in Palm Springs right now doing what I'm doing now, except underneath some grassy little knoll-like place in employee camping, because despite what you might hear about all the other camping spots at Coachella, employee campground is probably the better of all the passes. And I say this because it has like unfettered access 24/7, all these different types of things. And we're talking about coffee, right? So I'm going to get there. If there happens to be anybody that catches this video, I'm going to tag it Coachella 2025, you feel me? This year it was kind of trending, and this was the first weekend of Coachella. There's another weekend this coming weekend, and then there's another weekend of Stagecoach, right? And then I do believe Stagecoach might be 2 weekends now. I think it's just one, but regardless, Imperial Polo Field right now is absolutely teeming with hundreds of thousands of people. Even in the off week right now, because all the performers, all of the vendors, all of the employees of the vendors, those people are still hanging out right now at Coachella in Palm Springs. So if you guys happen to catch this video, just know that I used to be the person, kind of literally in charge of all the employees that sold the coffee there. And again, I just gotta publicly disclose that you guys might be paying $15 to $20 for some groundwater and day-old ground coffee beans. So, okay, now I don't want to just bag on the vendor at Coachella. I could do that. I have every right to do that, and in fact, there is some outside, things pending that are contingent upon what may or may not happen the next few years, and steps that I had taken in the past to ensure that I would be safe. But nonetheless, if you're paying that much for coffee, I kind of think you might be a little cuckoo. But cold brew coffee, all right. So let's talk about the different kinds of coffee, okay? And again, like, everything I just said is absolutely true. You guys just check out one of those stands that sells you the coffee there. We used to sell Americanos, and we didn't really have any drip coffee and just sold a whole lot of cold brewed coffee. And let me tell you, cold brew coffee is like liquid gold. It's a really simple process, and you can yield all different types of really good volumes of product to resell. Cold brew in and of itself is the more highly caffeinated of all the different types of coffee because of the way that it's brewed, and that is room temperature, with some water, and essentially you want the water to be clean, right? I mean, again, that's kind of a no brainer. I mean, you do want the water to be as clean as possible so you can have a good taste of, good sip of coffee, right? You guys just, that's kind of just the way that it is. Even here in our little home, in our little corner of the universe, in our a little apartment, we still manage to, luckily have access to clean, well, water, not by any credit to the local, public utility system, but only because there's two guys living here that have, somewhat of a brain, right? No, I'm not gonna hate on my roommate. He's got a brain. I have zero brain. Anyways, so like between the two of us, because he has a whole one and I have no, like we get like a half brain apiece. Anyways, yeah, and so coffee, again, like it's a big part of American culture. Just like people mostly on all over around the world enjoy tea, with the notable exception of Japan. So I'm going to include a bunch of links in the description below, some to Coachella, some to different, tutorials on how to make different kinds of coffee and stuff. But coffee is a big part of our culture. And for the record, I also used to be a social media director and, the content creator for this same said company. So anytime I talk about coffee, I just start, spitting out these random FYIs and, random little tidbits about coffee and the coffee belt and, how coffee is harvested and the difference between cold brew and espresso and the caffeine content, I mean, all of these very pretty intricate things that I know about coffee, and it all, again, comes from my background with working, not just, and that's not to mention my own, beverage company, which was loosely inspired by all of these sleepless nights at Coachella in Palm Springs, right? So, yeah, coffee has been a big part of my life. I remember being a little kid and sitting at the kitchen table with my grandma and grandpa and, kind of having the best moments of my life. That's all that happened then. That's all that was going on. Those were just some of the best moments of my life. Got to learn a lot about current events and got to hear a lot of Spanish and got to see a healthy relationship between my grandma and grandpa, and my grandma would make me food and wash my clothes and, do all the cool things that my grandma did for me. Yeah, shout out to my grandma. Knocking on heaven's door. Hi grandma, I hope you're well. Anyways, that's coffee. Again, I'm not sure if you guys are big into coffee. I know that recently, I feel like young people aren't as into coffee as, I was when I was that age, I guess. For all intents and purposes, I have spent the good majority of my life in and out of coffee houses way before having any sort of experience working with it to this day. And I've said this publicly before, and I don't want to try and rehash too many things. You'd be surprised that over the course of now close to 1,000 videos, I haven't very much repeated myself. There have been times, obviously, where some things have overlapped, but just to kind of continue, there was a time where I would spend a lot of back and forth visits in between New York and Philadelphia, and this was like in, post 9/11, but still like before 2005, so like 01, 05 area time-ish, and Starbucks was a big part of my life then, and it's not as big of a part of my life now because it's just not the same vibe anymore. I mean, it's kind of tough paying $9 for a cup of coffee. Regardless, I mean, it's a tough thing to ask of people, and so I'm including, those people that have the money to pay for it only because I've literally had days in the recent past where, you can easily drop $100 or $200 on just drinks and food and tip, and it's not even that many drinks. It's like you're trying to order like 6 venti white mocha 4-shot espressos, that's like $60. That's very expensive. So, yeah, coffee has gotten more expensive. It's still a part of a lot of people's lives. I know that to this day, I enjoy coffee thoroughly. Yeah, I'm a caffeine addict in and of itself, essentially, because without it, if I I get a headache or whatever, and it's the only time I get headaches is when I don't drink coffee. So I'm gonna break character now. Anyways, hey, all right, I really appreciate it, guys. If you didn't know this about me, yeah, prior, to me having, the kind of experience in life I've had over the past 10 years or so, there was a time where I was very involved in going to music festivals and being a part of these different things. And a big part of my life in my early years as a young adult was spent selling coffee, and I know that that sounds weird, right? Because a long time ago it wasn't as popular as it might be now, but it was an interesting time of my life for sure. And I really, coffee, just like people who drink out there, I just kind of view coffee in the same kind of light. I like chilling, maybe some friends, maybe some homies, maybe a fine lady. We can all dream, can't we? But yeah, that's what I do. I just dream. And there's really nothing else I can do, and because I have nothing, it's sort of just like, it's a free thing to do. So yeah, I that's what I got going on. I hope that you guys are well. I'm gonna try and bang out a couple more videos before I don't want to talk anymore, which I feel like it's coming. So I'm gonna get back to these videos. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.